Have you ever noticed this little lock icon? When you visit your bank, go shopping online, or use social media, it's almost always there. But did you know? Behind that tiny lock is actually a kind of security alliance protecting your data, HTTPS. Today, we're going to take it apart and see what's inside, from encryption to digital certificates, and learn how it makes the internet safer. HTTPS is basically the secure version of HTTP. HTTP is an application layer protocol used for data communication between a client and a server on the World Wide Web. It defines the rules and formats for how a client, like a browser or an app, requests resources from a server and how the server responds. The problem is, HTTP sends data in plain text. That means anyone in the middle can eavesdrop on it, alter the contents without you knowing, like changing a web page or the amount of money in an order, or impersonate the server or client. A so-called man-in-the-middle attack. Think of it like sending a postcard. Everyone who handles it can read what's written. A hacker just needs to peek somewhere in the middle of the network to grab your password, chat messages, or even your credit card number. So we need something more like a sealed envelope to protect our data. And that's where HTTPS comes in. HTTPS is basically HTTP plus TLS, formerly called SL. It uses three main tools: encryption, authentication, and integrity checks to protect the entire connection. You can imagine network communication as sending a package. Encryption is like putting a combination lock on the package. If you send private info like bank details in a plain envelope like HTTP, anyone can open it. But with encryption, even if someone intercepts it, they can't read it. Authentication is like checking that the delivery person is legit. When you shop online and someone shows up claiming to be the courier, how do you know they're not a scammer delivering fake goods? Authentication works like an official ID badge for the courier. On the internet, this prevents man-in-the-middle attacks. For example, a fake server pretending to be the real one. Data integrity checks make sure the package hasn't been opened or swapped during delivery. Even if the courier is real, you still want to know no one replaced your phone with a brick. On the web, this is done with a fingerprint of the data, a message authentication code, so if it's been altered, it gets rejected. These three together are why HTTPS is so much more secure than HTTP. So how does it actually work? Encryption comes in two types, symmetric and asymmetric. Symmetric encryption means you and your friend share the same key. You lock the file, and your friend uses the same key to unlock it. It's fast, good for large amounts of data, but you have to securely share the key first, and if someone steals it, you're in trouble. Asymmetric encryption means you have two keys, a public key, like a pickup code for a parcel locker, which you can share freely, and a private key, like the master key to open the locker, which you keep secret. Your friend locks the file with your public key, and only your private key can open it. It's safer for key exchange, but slower. In practice, networks combine them. They use the slower asymmetric encryption just once to securely exchange a symmetric key, and then use that symmetric key to encrypt all the actual data fast and secure. That official ID badge I mentioned earlier is what's called a digital certificate, the internet's version of an electronic ID card. It's issued by a trusted third party called a certificate authority, CA, and proves the true identity of a network entity, usually a website. Digital certificates work in two stages, issuance and verification. In the issuance stage, the applicant generates a public-private key pair and sends the public key plus identity information, like the domain name, to the CA. The CA checks their identity and, if approved, uses its private key to sign the info and create the certificate. In the verification stage, when you visit a site, your browser gets its certificate and checks the CA's signature using a CA public key already stored in the system. It also verifies the domain matches, the certificate hasn't expired, and is from a trusted CA. If anything fails, like with fake or outdated sites, you get a big red warning. Data integrity is simpler. When sending data, the sender calculates a fixed length fingerprint of it using a special algorithm. The fingerprint goes along with the data. The receiver runs the same algorithm on the data received and compares fingerprints. If they match, the data's intact. If not, it's rejected. As I said before, HTTPS equals HTTP plus TLS, and TLS is what implements these three core protections. The TLS handshake is the negotiation step before secure communication starts. Its main goals are: agree on the encryption methods to use, verify the server's identity, securely exchange the session key for actual data transfer. A typical TLS handshake goes like this. Client, hello. The client sends the TLS version and encryption methods it supports. Server, hello. The server replies with the highest version and method they both support. Server certificate. The server sends its digital certificate. The client verifies it. Key exchange. They securely exchange info to create a shared session key. Finished. Both sides confirm the handshake is complete and the secure channel is ready. Currently, TLS 1.2 and TLS 1.3 are the mainstream versions of the TLS protocol. Although TLS 1.0 and TLS 1.1 are still in use in some places, they have known security vulnerabilities, are no longer recommended, and will gradually be phased out. Compared with TLS 1.2, TLS 1.3 requires only one round trip to establish a connection for the first time. And in the case of reconnection, it can even achieve zero round trip by reusing previously exchanged information, which significantly reduces latency. By contrast, TLS 1.2 requires 2 round trips for the initial handshake. TLS 1.3 has removed all insecure algorithms, keeping only modern, strong encryption methods. It also enforces forward secrecy, meaning that even if a server's private key is leaked, past communications cannot be decrypted. TLS 1.2, on the other hand, still supports some outdated and vulnerable algorithms, such as RSA key exchange, which pose a risk of being cracked. TLS 1.3 also simplifies the handshake process by combining the server's responses, such as certificates and key exchange data, into a single message. In TLS 1.2, these elements are sent step by step, making the process more cumbersome. When choosing a TLS version, it is strongly recommended to use TLS 1.3 whenever possible. If that's not supported, then use TLS 1.2 and avoid TLS 1.0 and TLS 1.1 as much as possible. It's important to note that HTTPS only guarantees the security of data transmission. It does not guarantee that the website itself is safe. Through TLS encryption, authentication, and integrity checks, HTTPS protects the communication channel between the client and the server. However, even a phishing site can obtain HTTPS, which means that seeing the lock icon does not equal 100% safety. For developers and administrators, it's also critical to understand that a website's overall security depends on factors beyond transmission, such as the server, the code, and data storage, none of which are covered by HTTPS. You can think of HTTPS as a sealed delivery box. It makes sure the package isn't read or tampered with during shipping and confirms the address is correct. But it can't guarantee that what's inside the box is genuine, for example. It could still be fake goods, nor can it guarantee that the recipient's warehouse is secure. For example, if thieves break in. That's why true website security requires multiple layers, HTTPS plus server hardening, code auditing, secure data storage, and more. HTTPS is just one part of the bigger picture. That's it for today's video. If you found this helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. It really motivates me to make more deep dive tech videos. See you next time.